Hello guys, welcome back. I'm Eloise. I hope everyone is doing great. So I haven't uploaded a video since my review of Raw Gold. I got sick for the third time this winter, unfortunately, and I lost my sense of smell. I was really congested. I still am a little bit. And I was testing fragrances on skin and sort of not able to smell them properly. So I didn't want to talk about any fragrances, either the ones that I was testing or the ones that I own, unless I can really properly smell them, pick out the notes, and do them justice. So in today's video, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to talk about some fragrances that I once liked, that I no longer like, that I either sold or plan to sell and take out of my collection. So a lot of these fragrances were ones that I purchased in the time frame, maybe a year or two leading up to the start of this channel. And I think that was about the time that I started using YouTube to search up reviews of fragrances. So my journey, I would say, started a very long time ago. I always loved fragrances. Maybe I was 13 years old, if not younger. But it wasn't until about a couple of years ago, I would say, that I started purchasing fragrances based on YouTube reviews. So a lot of these were hyped fragrances that I ended up sort of buying into. I bought into the hype. But another reason why I liked these fragrances and now don't like them is simply because of my personal fragrance journey. The more I got my nose on different fragrances, the more I was able to open myself up to the ones that weren't necessarily hyped, ones that I could test, ones that I really enjoyed wearing, that really sort of spoke to me and that I found interesting. And obviously, taste in fragrances is so personal. So what I like may not be what you guys like, and some of the ones that I'm saying I don't like anymore, you guys might love. So I'm not saying that any of these are terrible fragrances, with the exception of a few. I just don't like wearing them. And in my fragrance journey, I feel like I've discovered much better quality fragrances and much better fragrances at some of the price points as well. So yeah, in the end, it's all super subjective, super personal, and this is just my opinion and my fragrance journey and my evolving fragrance collection. But before we get into the fragrances, I want to share a few bottles that I recently added to my collection that I'll be reviewing in the next couple of months. So the first one is Anubis by the House of Papillon. I own Bengal Rouge, which I reviewed on the channel. I also have a bottle of the Tobacco Rose, which is a great fragrance. And I have samples. I have about 4 or 5 samples that I've been testing. I sampled this one for the last few months before I actually purchased a full bottle. So I really knew that I liked this fragrance a lot. I love this. It's a great leather fragrance with this beautiful dose of myrrh. It's so syrupy and smoky. It's beautiful. And I really like Dryad as well. I'm still testing that one out to decide. And the next one is a discontinued fragrance that I've spoken about. I've mentioned it. A few of you mentioned this one in the comments to my video on Benjoin Bohème by the House of Diptyque. This is a great fragrance that's unfortunately discontinued. I did overpay a little bit for this because it is discontinued and a little difficult to find, but the price wasn't terribly above retail, so I'm okay with it. It's a great fragrance with a nice dose of benzoin. It's nice and warm. It's a little sweet. I sprayed it on my arm earlier. It's so beautiful. I like this. I'm glad that I found a bottle of this one. And finally, I got a bottle of Rituale by the House of Mendito Rosa, which is an Italian house with these beautiful artistic bottles. They're absolutely gorgeous. I absolutely love this one as well. It's an interesting cap. It's beautiful. And the fragrance is absolutely gorgeous. I had a decant of this and went through the entire decant before I actually decided to get a full bottle. It's a beautiful fragrance that has a great beeswax note. It's a little floral and it's a little bit fruity as well, but it has a really, really nice beeswax note, and that's what I found attractive about this one. I feel like it wears a little bit like Raw Gold, but a little more feminine than that fragrance. So I'll talk about this one soon. So back to the fragrances that I loved that now I don't like, starting with Yves Saint Laurent's Baby Cat. Yes, Baby Cat. The bottle of perfume that I basically sold in the smaller size to purchase the 150 ml, and it's full. So it's a vanilla-based fragrance that's peppery and has like a suede-like texture to it. I think there's something a little incensey about it. Dominique Rapillon is the nose behind this fragrance. I then purchased a bottle of Vanagloria, which was released before Baby Cat, years before, also a Dominique Rapillon creation. They have a lot of similarities. And a third fragrance that I'll lump with this one and Vanagloria, which I sold, is Memo Paris Cappadocia, which in my opinion, and I think many might agree, smells a lot like Baby Cat. So I sold Cappadocia as well. So those are three fragrances that smell very similar that I basically really liked. I liked that scent profile, and now I'm really not a fan. To me, this is too sweet. It's a little too mass appealing. If I'm going to wear vanilla fragrance, then I'm just going to go with the straight up vanillas from the House of Guerlain, which I feel have top-notch vanilla fragrances like Crêpe Beluga, which I have, Spiritus Double Vanille, which is really nice. I have a decant of that. I have Angelique Noir, which I recently purchased. So this sort of thing is just, it's too much for me. Cappadocia was too sweet, so I sold it. Vanagloria was just too incensey, so I sold that one as well. And Baby Cat is just, it's just too sweet, and the pepper is a bit much. I don't like that there's an overdose of that peppery component to the fragrance, and the vanilla is coming off a little synthetic maybe. It's just too much. So I'm not sure if I'm going to just keep this just to have it in my collection or sell it. I'm not sure about that yet, so it remains to be seen. So the next fragrance that I really loved this one, and I sold it, is Memo Paris Sintra. Sintra is a really sweet orange blossom neroli fragrance that has a caramel note in there as well. It's just very, very sweet fragrance. I absolutely loved Sintra only a couple of years ago, and as time went on and as I got my nose on other fragrances, my taste completely changed. So a lot of these fragrances, by the way, I'm going to say are too sweet. I think that's the gist. I just feel like my taste completely changed in terms of sweetness and fragrances. It's just not something that I'm into anymore. So Sintra, definitely very sweet, and I wasn't wearing it, so I sold it. So along the lines of Sintra is Parfums de Marly's Delina. This is a little bottle of Delina Exclusive. There are a couple of flankers to the original Delina, but the bottom line is that this purports to be a rose fragrance, but it really is just overdosed with sweetness. There's this like lychee note in here, so it's considered a fruity rose sweet fragrance. It's just too sweet. It's too sweet. The lychee note is like this sharpness against this rose that's hiding behind all the sweetness, so it's barely detectable. It's not the kind of rose fragrance that I want to wear these days. I purchased this one blind. I bought into the hype, which is fine. It's no one's fault but my own. But it's definitely not something that I'm wearing. It's just not the kind of fragrance that I'm interested in. I've gotten my nose on really nice fragrances. For instance, Les Indemodables Rose de Jamal. That's an enjoyable rose fragrance in my opinion. I like Les Abstraits rose fragrance. I'm working through 2 decants of that fragrance, and that's a really nice one. It's kind of reminiscent of Portrait of a Lady, which is a Frederic Malle's rose fragrance. It's a classic. This, too sweet, too synthetic, and the rose is like a candied fake rose in my opinion. So I did love it, and now I don't like it. And in the same vein, sort of the same style in a way, is the Initio perfumes. I owned Side Effect and Atomic Rose. So people on YouTube talk about getting compliments. I personally don't put big stock in getting compliments. I wear fragrances that I enjoy. I sometimes get compliments, but Atomic Rose is the one fragrance where the first time and the only time that a perfect stranger asked me, "What are you wearing?" and took down the name of the fragrance. I was wearing Atomic Rose. I was in the elevator in the morning, so I had a fresh couple of sprays. It is a beast of a fragrance. The problem with the fragrance is that there's an overdose, again, of sweetness, and it's like, where's the rose? So it's all about being loud. It's all about being long-lasting and beast mode, and it certainly is a loud fragrance. The person in the elevator really enjoyed it, and that's fine. But Atomic Rose, again, is not the type of rose fragrance that I enjoy wearing. I did like it. I liked it. I admit I liked it for a short amount of time. I hardly wore it, and I sold it pretty easily. And in that same vein is Side Effect by Initio, which I also owned and sold pretty easily. And that one is basically a vanilla fragrance, and it has a cognac note. It's supposed to be boozy. And I think there's a tobacco note in there and some spice like cinnamon. And I think it's a little ambery. But at the end of the day, it's this vanilla that is just overdosed with a sugary sweetness. Not the kind of fragrance where you're enjoying a boozy note or a tobacco note. There's nothing natural smelling about any of the notes in the fragrance. But again, they're big, they're bold. I guess a lot of people will consider them beast mode fragrances. To me, to my nose, they're a little synthetic. So I sold both of them, and I did love them, but I did not wear them, and I won't wear them because I have so many other fragrances that I think I've spent less money on that I think are so much better that I enjoy wearing. So the next fragrance is from a house that I kind of like, Atelier d'Azur, and this is Rouge Saray. So this was a blind buy, and this I did purchase based on the hype on some of the YouTube channels that I was really into and I was watching a couple of years ago. And this is a fruity fragrance that's a little balsamic and has a plum note in it and dates. And I initially liked this, but then I felt like there was something a little bit sour about the notes in here, something a little off about the composition, not a smooth blend, not something that I was really wearing. So I kind of liked it in concept. I sprayed it a few times. I'm not crazy about the plum and the dates and the sweetness. There's definitely a sweetness to this as well. So I did like Rouge Saray, a very hyped fragrance. Ended up not wearing it, so I think I'm probably going to try to sell this one soon. So the next one is from the house of Matiere Premiere, and this is Parisian Musk. Another hyped fragrance. The whole house of Matiere Premiere was really hyped, and I owned about 4 of them, 4 or 5. I sold every single one. Every single one. I do like the simplicity of the look, the aesthetics, the bottles. I do like that they focus on a particular note or scent profile. But if I'm going to go for a fragrance that focuses on a note or a particular scent profile, I'll go with the house of Profumum Roma, which I think make excellent fragrances. Parisian Musk is a very light, simple, musky fragrance. I think there's a pear note in here, but to my nose, it comes off like a really light, transparent, clean, almost like fig fragrance. When I wore this, I did wear this a couple of times, and it's a nice fragrance. I'm not saying that this doesn't smell nice. I think it smells really nice and clean. I almost thought that it would be a good replacement for BDK's Gris Chanel. That fragrance did not work out for me. Gris Chanel, the original one, there was just something about it. I never purchased the full bottle. I ended up with the X-ray version, which lasted 2 seconds on my skin. So when I wore this a few times, I felt like it could be the fragrance that would sort of take the place of purchasing the original Gris Chanel. I thought it smelled a little similar, minus the, I think there's a tea note in Gris Chanel, which is nice. But I would say this one I find boring. It's nice, it's clean, but it's just a little bit boring, and I know I'm not going to wear this. I haven't worn it, and it's not even something that's going to be my office scent. I have a lot of simple fragrances that I could wear to the office. This one I feel like is just a little too boring, so I did love it, and now I think I'm not loving it so much. And the last one is one that I feel like I have a love-hate relationship with this bottle, and I'm actually not sure that I'm ready to say that I loved it and now hate it. I loved it and now I'm unsure. So this is Maison Francis Kurkdjian's Oud Satin Mood, which is a rose oud fragrance, as you guys know. And I don't know what to make of this. The rose is not a natural smelling rose. The oud, I know, is not a very realistic oud. And I feel that there is a boldness to this sweetness and boldness that might be a bit much for me. But then there's a part of me that sort of likes it. When I spray this on myself, it lasts for hours. If I get this on clothing, I will smell it on the clothing. And I like the way it smells. It's not that I dislike how it smells. I just feel like this might be a little too sweet. So I'm back to where I started, which is a lot of these fragrances are just, they're too sweet for what I like at this point in my fragrance journey. But there is something that I like about this. So that's the best way that I could put it. There's something I still like that keeps me hanging on. I'm still hanging on a little bit to this fragrance. I don't know that I'm ready to part with it. I did list this for sale and then I removed it, and I probably shouldn't sell it because there's something that's making me sort of hang on to this. It is a little too sweet. It's not the kind of rose fragrance that I would consider a top rose fragrance. There are so many other rose fragrances, like I said earlier, that I think are much more beautiful. But I do like the house of Maison Francis Kurkdjian. I really do. And I've been buying fragrances from MFK for a long, long time. So I feel like I have a bit of a nostalgic connection to the house. I have Grand Soir, even though I don't think it's the best amber fragrance in my collection. I don't want to get rid of that one. I did sell A La Rose only because it was really super light and watery, and I could barely detect rose in the fragrance, and it had no lasting power. So I guess I'll end the video with Oud Satin Mood, a fragrance that I loved that is to be determined, to be revisited, I think. So let me know in the comments what you guys think of these fragrances. Like I said earlier, it's all subjective. This is just my opinion, my fragrance journey. And it's a combination of buying fragrances based on hype that then turned out not to be what I expected them to be. And then a lot of it is just changing taste. My taste has changed, and it's my fragrance journey that I'm sharing. So if you guys like or dislike some of these, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and also what you think about the new purchases that I'll soon be reviewing. So as usual, thank you so much for watching, your support and your comments. Until next time, bye guys.